Hello and welcome to the Crimson Misery Podcast, episode 34. My name is Will Rainbolt. I hope you all are doing well. It is February 25th, 2025. If you all are listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, consider rating the show 5 stars. If you are listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment down below. You can also email the pod at crimsonmiserypod@gmail.com. So, let's get started right away with one of my favorites, one of my favorite games this year. Indiana beats Purdue at home 73 to 58. It was not looking good for a while. Mike Woodson's fourth and final year, of course, announced that he was stepping down at the end of the year, and at least he goes out with a win against Purdue. And that's at the very least, because this win also gets Indiana a little bit closer to the tournament. Still not in as of right now, but they went from the next four out to, even though the bracket hasn't updated yet, it will on Tuesday. Lenardi was talking about them being in the first four out along with North Carolina. So that's pretty exciting. Um, Still a lot to go. They still, again, until they beat Penn State, I will say, like, I'm going to hold my breath a little bit. Because even then, I just still don't fully trust this team. Although they've already beaten Penn State once this year, and especially with this game being at home, I think they can do it again. They have Ohio State at home on senior night. They have a road game against Washington that is more than winnable, I think. At Oregon is the only game I think they will probably lose down the stretch, but winning three of your last four would be pretty nice. Four of your last five, technically, with the game against Purdue. But man, starting the second half on a 28-3 run, especially with Mackenzie Mbako not starting, Umar Ballo didn't start either. Mackenzie Mbako only played 9 minutes this game. Like NBA draft prospect Mackenzie Mbako, which is kind of crazy. But Umar Ballo had 12 points off the bench. Malik Renew played very well this game. He's played Purdue pretty well his entire career. He had 15 points. Trey Galloway has also kind of the same way. He also had 15 points. There was a skirmish between Caleb First of Purdue and Anthony Leal where when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, like a groin shot is like an automatic flagrant two, and especially because Leal stepped on Caleb First's crotch, so not fun, but also Leal didn't get tossed. And like it also looked like Caleb First had the hook and hold on Anthony Leal, despite listening to Steve Lapis on Sunday was an absolute nightmare. I can't stand his announcing style. His voice sounds like a 40-year-old chain, or not a 40-year chain smoker at the end of the bar. Um, and he just kept getting like everything wrong. His predictions, his guesses for what the refs were going to call were always incorrect because they also called Trey Kaufman Wren for a flagrant one when I've seen way worse not get called a flagrant one, but you have to set a precedent early on, and they did not do that. And this was the Jeffrey Anderson special. Look, we all know the high knees. We love the high knees, of course, but he's not a good official. His team is not good as well. So, um, but yeah, Indiana, they, I, I'm starting to hope again. I'm starting to hope. Um, again, I'm not going to say anything until just beat Penn State. Just take one game at a time, and you're gonna hear that come up a lot in this episode because this also applies for a lot of different teams. Not much to say about Memphis beating Florida Atlantic, but Dane Danger had a big game, 22 points, 11 rebounds. Gee, I wonder if Illinois misses Dane Danger. I wonder if they could use a guy with size, and they could use some rim protection and could use any extra defender. Maybe just me. But anyway, anyway, yeah, Memphis, uh, just keep winning, and I think they should be fine. They're also favorites to win the American Athletic Conference Championship tournament, so they should still be ranked by the time tournament time starts, but we shall see. And then St. John's blows out UConn 89-75. This game was never particularly close. And especially after St. John's won in Gamble Pavilion, I was thinking, yeah, there's no shot UConn wins this game. And I was right. So the defense for St. John's definitely wasn't as strong, but where they made up for that was their 3-point shooting. I think they hit 7 threes in the first half to really give them some separation, and then UConn really struggled, 6 of 23. Alex Caravan finally had a decent shooting game, 17 points, went 3 of 6 from three, but I just think UConn has way too many issues right now. They believe it or not, they have more issues than Kansas right now. And that's saying something when Kansas also can look pretty bad at times. But I'll get to Kansas and their victory over Colorado here in this episode shortly. So, yeah, Zubi Ejiofor had another really good game. He's been shooting from the free throw line better, especially 8 for 9 from the free throw line today, or well, Sunday, but in this game. And that's really big for St. John's, who's not a good, they're not a great 3-point shooting team. They're not a good free throw shooting team, primarily. Kind of the norm under a Rick Pitino coach team. They're obviously more known for their defense, but hey, when UConn doesn't have any defense, you can kind of get away with that. So anyway, um, yeah, St. John's still really good. I think they're going to be at this point probably the favorite to win win the Big East tournament. I think at this point UConn is I just don't know, man. With this UConn team, I'm less certain about them than I am for Kansas or um gosh, I mean probably I mean I compare those two a lot because UConn and both UConn and Kansas were ranked in the top 5. Kansas was number 1, I believe. UConn was number 3, or number 2, one of the two. Were they 2 or 3? They were 3. So yeah, I think both of these teams being unranked now leads to a lot of issues being discovered by many different teams, and I just think UConn, with their lack of depth, and I think they have, I mean, lack of depth and also just lack of front court depth too, lack of rim protection. I think Kansas, even when you have a guy like even when Hunter Dickinson isn't always playing at 100% effort level, I think Kansas still has better rim protection overall, especially with Flory Bidunga. I think he needs to get way more minutes than, especially when you're talking about a guy like KJ Adams, even though he had a good game against Colorado. But again, I'll get to that game in a little bit. I'm just using Kansas as a bit of a comparison for UConn basically not having any of that. I mean, Samson Johnson is fine. Like Terrace Reed Jr. is fine. I just when you're the only two guys who can really rim protect and you're not the tallest, you can get exposed pretty easily. They still have plenty of really good players. They have some really good forwards and guards. I love my guy Solo Ball a lot, but I just I have so much hesitation when talking about this UConn team, watching them stumble throughout Big East play. So that's where it really, really comes down to. Um, uh, but I got to give a shout out to my main man, friend of the show, a guy I respect so much in Doug Gottlieb. Please, like, I know he's feeling bad right now. I know Doug Gottlieb is feeling bad. He had a great effort. His team had a great effort against Youngstown State. And I think when you lose by 4 against a really competitive Youngstown State team on the road, you deserve to come back another year. And I think that's what Doug Gottlieb should have obtained by now. I think he's obtained so much respect from Green Bay players and fans and the administration and the program, the basketball program, the men's basketball program, especially SIDs, whatever you can think of. Um, I just I just can't sing Doug Gottlieb's praises enough. Um, Editor's note: Green Bay is 3 and 3-26 on the year, and 1-17 in the Horizon League. So there you go. Did you miss me? Did you miss me, Doug Gottlieb? Uh, Feels great. All right, so UCLA also defeated Ohio State 69-61. This was a game honoring Bill Walton, who passed away earlier, I believe last year, and they got a big home win, especially after losing to Minnesota. This is definitely a win they needed to have at home against like an Ohio State team that is currently playing itself out of the tournament. Like, I'm sorry, 15-13, 7-10 in the Big Ten should not get you in the tournament. At best, I see them as next four out. I don't like this Ohio State team just isn't doing anything for me. So that's my 2 cents there. Creighton trying to keep up in the Big East, beats Georgetown 80-69. They are, I think, probably around the 7-8 line if I had to predict by now. Drake trying to wrap up the Missouri Valley, beat Northern Iowa 64-58, I believe. Is No, that okay. Never mind. It does not start. I was thinking the Missouri Valley Conference tournament uh was next week. I guess it's the week after because I looked at the record and they only played 28 games. Normally teams play between 30 and 31 in the college basketball regular season. I was just confused by um the conference record because I guess they expanded to 20 games by now. And Rutgers, hey, they got back to 500, 14-14. Dylan Harper at 25 points, and you still aren't making the tournament, Rutgers, unless you win the unless you win the Big Ten tournament, which I'm not expecting. So, not with teams like Michigan State and Michigan, or even Wisconsin, despite their loss to Oregon. So, um, anyway, with that being said, let's uh, break down some action that happened today, or well, yesterday, technically Monday. I'm recording this early in the morning, so that's why I may keep flubbing that. So, a team that is currently on the bubble, being Nebraska, as one of the last four buys, which I'm also not really certain about. They lost at home to Michigan, which is a game that definitely could have helped them if they had won this one, but they did not. So Nebraska, I know, had a shot to or to win the game because Connor Essegian, who was 0 for 3 before taking that 3-point shot, I think that should have either been Bryce Williams or Juwan Gary, even though Juwan Gary did not have a great shooting night. So probably Bryce Williams. That just should go in his hands. Like, I'm sorry, but and only scoring 46 points too against a Michigan team that isn't the best defensively, I think that's a sign that Nebraska is running out of gas. And unless they can rebound, that loss definitely did not help Nebraska. That definitely probably at this point puts them between the last four in, first four out range. Because Nebraska doesn't have a ton of high quality wins. So I'm really thinking that Nebraska is probably looking on the outside looking in right now because this is a game they should have had, but it was not. It was not to be. So, but Michigan, hey, get another road win. Still keeping pace in the Big Ten after losing at home to Michigan State. They need some momentum going into that last game in the Breslin Center, and if they can do that, Michigan is with all that momentum on their side. They could be a pretty dangerous team come tournament time. But I just think Michigan State with their size and their depth can just wear out a team like Michigan. It already happened once, so that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen again. But you never know if uh, if Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden go off, if Trey Donaldson has a really good game, you don't know. But again, Michigan State also has Cohen Carr and Jace Richardson, so yeah, I'm probably going to go with Michigan State in that one. But that is for another time. That is for next week. So this game was one that really was um it was a lot. There's a lot to get into with Houston and Texas Tech. Number 4 Houston at number 10 Texas Tech. Houston is now 16-1 in conference play, and Texas Tech was the only team in the Big 12 to beat Houston so far at Houston, which was pretty wild. And yet, I there is a little bit of an asterisk here because both um, so Chance McMillan didn't play for Texas Tech, and then also um, Darian Williams did not play. That's right. Because, yeah, so two of Texas Tech's best players were not playing in this game, and they only went 6 deep and still kept a pretty good pace with Houston. Um, but yet, Houston just swarmed them defensively. And it just, when McMillan and Williams come back, I think Texas Tech is going to be a lot better um, just facing that level of pressure from Houston's defense. And Texas Tech made a really good run toward the end of the game. I think they cut it to 3 or 4 toward the end of it, but Houston just made enough free throws and just were able to hold Texas Tech to 61 points, which is not easy to do, especially after the thriller in Houston, especially when JT Toppin got ejected in that one. And I think Texas Tech, despite the loss, is still looking pretty good. Houston, again, at full strength, still not an easy win to go at Texas Tech and beat them. So Houston deserved that one, and they are the best team in the Big 12, I think, by far. Iowa State, you can make a case for, but even then, I just don't think they're matching up well with Houston, even when Curtis Jones and um, Keaton Gilbert. I was Gilbert and oh, what's his name? Taman Lipsey. I was trying to think of who was out for Iowa State when Houston played them. So yeah, Houston has been a little fortunate to play some teams that are not at 100%. That is something to keep in mind. But as I said before, winning at Texas Tech is not an easy thing to do. So just I give them props when they need to happen. So that is that. North Carolina, another team on the bubble, picked up a win at Florida State. This would have been another bad loss for North Carolina, which they don't need another one of. Right now, they are I think they're the last team out. Seeing the most updated Lenardi bracket, having North Carolina as the first team out and Indiana as the second team out. But hey, they got to win. They got to win at Florida State. So that the game that's really going to decide it is if they're able to beat Duke. If you beat Duke, if North Carolina is able to do that, they're in. And if not, they're out. Um, I just don't think with their resume right now that Carolina's a tournament team still. But again, we shall see. And then McNeese is now 17-1 in the Southland, winning 100-65. They're definitely unless something crazy happens in the Southland tournament, McNeese is going to be the team in the tournament. So again, unless something absolutely wild happens, which I don't think that's going to be the case. So, and then again, Kansas, I got to give a little bit of props. I'm going to hesitate a little bit. Hunter Dickinson, 32 points, 13 rebounds. This was his best game of the year so far. And Kansas snaps their 4-game losing streak on the road. They win at Colorado 71-64. They made some better plays. The team was a little more together. KJ Adams had a pretty decent game with 15 points. The thing is, even especially with the game against Oklahoma, they've played well in 2 games now. But Oklahoma State and Colorado are the 2 worst teams in the Big 12. And until they play well against a team like Texas Tech, who's up next, and then at Houston, and then at home against Arizona to end the regular season, I'm taking these games with a grain of salt because there's a, like the most likely thing to happen to me, and that especially is going to be determined by if Chance McMillan and Darian Williams are playing for Texas Tech, because I think they will be able to beat Arizona at home. I think they go 2-1. I think they're losing at Houston, but they win the two home games. And because they have a lot of talent still, I'm not wanting to completely write them off, but at the same time, I still don't really think they're all that good because, again, Colorado is a really bad basketball team this year, and Kansas had to put them away, and they did. They won this game. It is better than a loss, but do that against Texas Tech, and we'll reassess. Like, again, as I said, both UConn and Kansas are out of the top 25. Kansas was ranked preseason number one. They were the number one team in the country, starting off like 7-0, and are now out of the rankings entirely with 9 losses. So, again, if they are able to play well, then I'm there's a good chance I will reassess. But there is always a hesitation when you're not playing well on the road, and it also will be determined by what happens in the Big 12 tournament. We'll see. We'll see. So again, that's really all I have to say about Kansas right now. I'm just again, it will we will find out how good this Kansas team is when they play better competition. So anyway, let's move over to the women's side because there's a lot to talk about on the women's side. Um, so NC State knocks off number one Notre Dame, 104-95 in double overtime. There, this game was back and forth, and NC State had the lead in the final couple minutes, and then for some reason, NC State did not foul up three, and Sonia Citron buried the game tying three to send this one into overtime. And then the game was like there have been a lot of crowd incidents where I think a fan in the NC State crowd was having a medical episode, and I'm actually not sure what the status on that is, on that fan is, but also Zoe Brooks had a really, really great overtime performance, and that combined with Zia James also with 20 points, but Zoe Brooks was the star with 33 points. All five NC State players were in double figures. This is a big win for then 13th ranked NC State, I believe. Looking at the because Texas is now number one, and that's well deserved. I'll get to talking about them in a little bit, but NC State is now ninth in the country, and Notre Dame is down to third in the country. So great win for NC State. Zoe Brooks especially put this game away. There was some dazzling layups that she hit, and also went 14 of 14 from the free throw line. Olivia Miles was 4 of 13 from the free throw line. Hannah Hidalgo went scoreless for I think I think from like the 4 minute mark in the well, actually no, that's not right. So but Hannah Hidalgo still went like 5 minutes without scoring in the late game stages, I think in the first and second overtime. So that was a big reason for Notre Dame losing. But at the same time, Notre Dame's still in line for a one seed. NC State's probably on the three line still, but even then, great win for NC State, as I said. And then former number one UCLA. I thought Iowa may have a chance in this one, but UCLA, um, Arnasala, Alina Arensalo, I always mess up her name. She hit some big free throws late to put UCLA in front of Iowa. Uh, I definitely thought Lucy Olson would have a better game than she did. She just looked off the entire game, 5 for 21 from the floor. That will happen when UCLA switches so many defenders onto her, especially with Lauren Betts guarding the paint. That is really difficult to maneuver and try to score upon. So UCLA wins again in a hard-fought battle, 67-65. And again, Betts 22 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. She is incredible. So great win for them. USC beats Illinois 76-66. Juju had 22 points, 4 more blocks to add to her totals this year. Kiki Iriafen had 22 as well. Uh, Genesis Bryant, one of my personal favorite players to watch in the Big Ten this year, put on another pretty good show. 22 points, 5 of 10 from three, but not enough on the road against a very talented USC team. And then game I thought Louisville might have a chance in, North Carolina number nine. At that point, number nine, they are now the, well, if I could look that up, eighth ranked team in the country. Um, they end up pulling out a road win against Louisville, 79-75, and I just definitely defensively, North Carolina has stumbled a little bit. I'm curious to see um, if that gets a little bit better. Um, I obviously think that without what's yeah. So North Carolina, to be fair, was without Alyssa Utsby, who who has not been playing recently. I think she's missed two or three in a row for North Carolina. But even without her, North Carolina still has a lot of talent, especially with now Lexi Donarski and Renaya Kelly. I think that North Carolina still is going to be fine without Alyssa Utsby. But also for Louisville, I just if Jada Curry isn't shooting particularly well from the floor, it's really difficult for Louisville to get going, at least in the games that I have seen them in. So I just think Louisville, while yes, they are a talented group, they'll still make the tournament. I just don't know if they're going to go very far, especially after how last year ended. I'm just very hesitant uh, to know what exactly I'm going to be getting from Louisville. So then we have Tennessee winning on the road against Florida, 80, excuse me, 86-78. That is another game that Florida was definitely, had seemingly had control in, but then Tennessee used a big third quarter, outscoring Florida 37-20 to basically take control of the game. And yeah, good win for Tennessee, who despite their struggles, especially against ranked opponents, they are now 11th in the country. They're probably around the 4 or 5 line if I had to predict right now. Um, so yeah, good performance on the road from Tennessee, and then. I mean, Indiana. I knew Indiana was going to lose this game. They lost 73-65 against Michigan State. With that defense for Michigan State, it's just really difficult to play against. I mean, that's about all I have to say about that game. And then LSU comes back on the road against Kentucky. Um, Michaela Williams had a big game, 24 points, and she also hit a big three to basically put the game away. They outscored Kentucky 23 to, I swear it's always the third quarter. They outscored Kentucky 23-6 after Kentucky was up by 12, I believe, at halftime, 38-26. And I thought Kentucky was definitely going to pull this one out, but then, hey, I unfortunately have to give Kim Mulkey credit. She had a really good game plan. Definitely was making Georgia A more uncomfortable in this one. I mean, she had 16 points, but 6 of 22 from the floor, 3 of 15 from three. Did not have a very good game. So yeah, great win for LSU. And again, Michaela Williams was clutch in the second half. So she's another player to definitely watch out for come tournament time. If you don't know the name Michaela Williams, definitely keep that name on the back of your on your in the back of your head. So definitely great to watch that. And then, well, not because Kim Mulkey won, so, but just I like the way she plays, Michaela Williams. So, and then Malaysia Full Wiley's finally playing a little bit more. She had 24 points. Joyce Edwards had 17 and 12, and South Carolina blew out Vanderbilt 82 to 54. So this is a game I thought Vanderbilt would play a little bit closer, but South Carolina definitely looked like their old selves this game, uh, winning by 38 points. So no, sorry, 28 points. Yeah, 28. I can't do math. 82 to 54 is 28 point difference. So I'm not stupid. Trust me. Um, I went to college, I swear. So yeah, anyway, the new number one being Texas beat Georgia 57 to 26. It's crazy. Look, Georgia's not a good team, and I'm not like gonna pretend like Georgia had any shot in this one, but man, scoring 26 points at home is not good. Um, I mean, Texas held. It was just to uh, give you a little bit of insight. This was a 20 to 16 halftime lead for Texas, and Georgia scored 10 points in the second half, 6 points in the third, four points in the fourth, while Texas outscored them. Good God, this is pretty crazy. 37 to 10 in the second half. So that is another indicator that Texas is really good defensively. And look, I know Georgia is not good competition, but hey, on the road, you kind of have to, give them a little bit of slack. So Texas that is for not scoring as much, but because it was a very defensive oriented game for a while. So even though Madison Booker didn't have a very good game, only shot 3 for 11. Taylor Jones definitely stepped up with 17 points. And yeah, another really good win for Texas, who just plays great defense. They're a very steady offensive team, and I think they're well deserving of um, the current number one spot, and they're definitely playing toward the number one overall seed come tournament time. And I thought it was probably going to be a team like UCLA or USC or South Carolina or maybe even UConn, but Texas right now is looking like the team that's going to end up getting that right now. Anyway, we'll see. There's still the SEC tournament, so take that with a grain of salt. Um, but yeah, so other than that, just looking ahead to the games, Duke's in action again against Miami. Florida at Georgia. Georgia needs a win badly. They need to win um, against Florida to even have a shot at the NCAA tournament. We'll see if they're able to get it. If they lose this game, they are just sliding farther and farther back, of course. So Marquette needs to win against Providence if they want to improve their seed line or just remain steady because Marquette has definitely not been playing very well as of late. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Uh, Wednesday has Michigan State and Maryland it's at Maryland. So that's gonna be a big test for both teams. Can Derek Queen play well against Michigan's front court? Um, can Michigan State's guards keep Rodney Rice and Jacoby Gillespie out of the lane? That's going to be really interesting to watch. Auburn also uh, still number one. They're going to be playing Ole Miss. Texas A&M trying to snap their two-game losing streak against Vanderbilt. Clemson trying to keep up in the ACC. They face Notre Dame at home. That's a game that Clemson should definitely win. So, yeah, with that being said, I mean, Indiana also, again, as I said, against Penn State, Kentucky at Oklahoma. Um, yeah, Utah State at Boise State for the Mountain West. That's going to be, I mean, New Mexico still definitely the team that's, the best team in the Mountain West this year. So not really, um, I don't really think that either of these teams are catching New Mexico at this point, but we'll see. Because especially for the one seed, because Utah State has lost twice to New Mexico now, and as we see, New Mexico is a half game ahead of Utah State. So we'll see if New Mexico wins out, uh, they're still winning the regular season title at this rate. So Bradley and Drake are also in action for the Missouri Valley, still a conference that has yet to be decided. And St. John's also at Butler, Kentucky at Oklahoma. Still, still some conferences to be decided. George Mason trying to bounce back after the loss to VCU. They play a pretty bad Fordham team. Um, George Mason, I think, is now on the next four out from the latest bracket I saw from Lenardi. So we'll see if they are able to win out. That's going to be an interesting case to make. Can UConn beat Georgetown at home? I think so, but at the same time, they're going to make it like the ugliest win possible. So anyway, with that being said, I will see you all at some point in the midweek um, or later this week. Not sure entirely when yet, but um, best be assured that as this college basketball season winds down, you're going to get quite a bit more content from from my podcast and from me. So hopefully you all are prepared for that. And yeah, that's about all I have for this episode. Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for listening, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.